A narrow lot is always a challenge, and two narrow lots is double the trouble. This story starts as 2021 was coming to a close when the land buying frenzy was at its peak. Standard lots were almost impossible to find. Even if they were on the market, they cost insane amounts of money. We came across two lots that looked like the one behind me. The slope didn't seem too drastic, yet even so, we ran into quite a few challenges. As we began to design the project and look closer at the elevation, we realized that we would have to build a house with two different leveling layouts. What I mean is the house would look like 3 floors from the front, but from the back it would look like 2 floors. When we got the rendering for the front of the house, the 3-story seemed way too tall and skinny. We decided to work with the base of the house. We pushed out the front of the house and also made it 1 foot wider to the right and to the left. Doing that made the house look way more grounded and stable. When we did that, we ended up with this terrace that has a gorgeous view of Apache Hills. When we ended up with 2 identical houses, though they were of course mirrored, we wanted to differentiate them in some way. This house on the right has this gorgeous 100-year-old oak tree right in front, so we decided to add a sunroom to the house on the left. It's an additional enclosed space on the terrace that can be used as a greenhouse, sunroom, or office. It also has a spectacular panoramic view of the hills. This next point I'll mention was really interesting for me. These 2 lots were the exact same. They were narrow and long. Because of that, we couldn't build 2 different houses. We had to build mirrored houses, which eventually led to another big problem, the septic problem. With a narrow lot of land, you're limited to just 2 choices instead of 4. There's no left corner or right corner, it's just front yard or backyard because there's setback lines coming off the sides. So in this case, we had mirrored houses that were stuck between 2 setback lines, and we could only use either the front yard or backyard. When designing your home, the septic system is the most important thing you need to be thinking about. You need to figure out where you can put it. There are 2 different parts, the septic tank and the septic field. For this project, we set up a septic field in the backyard because there wasn't enough space in the front yard for the square footage of the house. 2,500 square feet needs a septic field that's about 2,400 square feet. So we had to find a place in the backyard where we could build a septic field. When these 2 houses were put up and when I compared that with the plans, I was really surprised. It wasn't possible to put a septic tank here. Somehow, we would have to get a giant crane through this space between the houses, and we'd have to do it twice, once for each house. When I thought of this, I went to the septic engineer and asked him to change the positions of the septic tanks. It ended up saving us several $1,000s, it made the project way simpler, and most importantly, it cleaned up the backyard for the future homeowners, as it could cause future problems and additional expenses. Setting up a septic field on a slope is a huge challenge. The first thing you need to bear in mind is that the field can only be built on a 30% grade. For this project, we had to build retaining walls to get a 30% grade for our septic field. So, as a result, we ended up with these 2 splendid backyards with these additional landings from the retaining walls that can be used as flower beds. You could plant some flowers here, and when you look out of the windows from the living space or from the master bedroom, you'll have a view of this forest, and you'll also have this nice decorate line, this foreground of colorful flowers. The second interesting feature we ended up with was this terrace that is located above the living space. It's a huge terrace that overlooks both the backyard and the front yard. It has access to both ends, so you get 2 views, one view of Apache Shores and the other of the forest. By the way, this plot actually extends further upwards. The future owners can use this landscape and make it more attractive. There are some well-established oaks back there. With a little bit of work, it could become a really beautiful, natural little landscaping area. On top of that, you can make a little trail to the neighboring street. As I mentioned before, building these homes on a slope required us to create a type of stepped architecture. We ended up with the front-facing part having an underground floor, as we called it, where we have an office. Having the office on a separate lower floor that's not connected to the first floor or to the living space and master bedroom is really convenient. When someone comes to visit the office, you don't have to guide them through your living space. It's like having a separate, isolated office within your home. In my opinion, that's pretty cool. We managed to create a separate entrance for the office so that you don't have to go through the living space to get there. Instead, you pass through the office area to get to the living space. We were able to do this because of the slope. We also have a 2-car garage here. When you come in through the main front door, there's also a front porch. We'll find the office right here, and we can see this live retaining wall. It's a real concrete wall, it's 1 foot thick, and it holds back the earth on the other side, but it's also a design element. We decided to keep it and let the designers work with it a bit. This office has its own door on the side, and if you feel like it, you can use the small terrace which we'll build later. We have 2 more floors above this, the living space and the master bedroom. By the way, it's quite popular in Austin and in America in general to have the living space and master bedroom on the same floor with 2 additional bedrooms on the 3rd floor. If you have children or dogs, they can be on a separate floor. As usual, we have our dog room, a room under the stairs for dogs. Septic systems come in 2 types, a pipe and gravel system or a chamber system. Chamber systems are installed on soft soils and can be buried into the ground, whereas pipe systems are installed on rocky soils, where pipes are laid out and covered with soil. Behind me is a soil profile hole, a hole that was dug to determine the type of soil on these plots of land. In this case, we're still in the process of solving the problem because just coming up with a plan doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to build a certain type of system here. For that, you need to dig a pit and determine at what soil there is and what depth. After that, an inspector comes and checks whether there's enough soil or the right type for that particular system. And if, for example, the inspector doesn't allow that particular system, you'll have to change the type of system. This can all create a lot of additional expenses. Despite all the difficulties you may encounter on a slope, you don't need to be afraid of working with them. I think my experiences show that anything is possible. Even with the problems and difficulties we faced, we can end up with some really cool, unique projects. This won't be the last story about these houses on the slope. If you're interested, ask questions, comment, and I'll definitely answer. Until the next video,